Hello. Hello, everyone. Normally Fi would be here, but she is in the middle of another meeting, so it's just me. Uh, you might notice I have a big circle above my head. I actually don't even know how to get access to the chats on here in case anyone shows up. So let's see if I can open this. Let's see if I can open this from here. Oh, I can. I can watch my own live video. It's blank. Well, that's concerning. Is it actually blank? Oh, no, I see myself. There we go. A little delayed, but that's okay. Well, I hope everyone's doing good. Here at HappyTec, we spend a lot of time helping out people with technical problems, and I'll tell you, we've had some really interesting ones. But we're gonna hopefully talk a little bit about that today. If people don't have any questions, if you do have questions, then feel free to shout them out, and I'm looking at my phone, and my phone is here, and my phone has the chat. I've never actually looked at a Substack live stream before from my phone, so I don't know if the chat is actually going to persist or if it's just going to disappear. So if you say something and I don't get to it, then my apologies on that. It is not a you issue, it is a me issue. So because this is something that I'm very interested in and it seems to come up a lot, I'm going to give you entirely more information about websites and how they operate than you ever really wanted to have. So, the first thing that's really important to know about a website is there's three main pieces. There's your domain registrar, or registrar just being, it's such an old-fashioned word, isn't it? Registrar. Like, you don't go up to the hotel and be like, yeah, I went to the hotel registrar. You're like, no, I went to the hotel. And that's just kind of how it is. I'm realizing I have my OBS set into 9:16 right now, or 16 by now, whichever one is the more appropriate for YouTube Shorts. And that doesn't seem to work exactly too well with Substack. So I wonder exactly what their ratio is. Anyway, your domain registrar, that's the person that actually handles your domain name. And the reason there's a specific entity for it is because when you put a domain or a website into your web browser, it's got to figure out where to go. And what it does, there's actually the browser reads your domain or your website backwards. So it starts from the right and goes to the left. It's just how it's set up. So it actually has kind of an invisible dot on the end there, and you can actually add it yourself, I think, and I don't think it'll do anything. But basically, that dot means, hey, this is the starting point. Then it looks at the TLD, or top level domain. For a lot of you, that's going to be com. So you have mywebsite.com. I have a website, unblockme.digital. So digital is my top level domain. There's also like IT, AI is a popular one. There's a bunch. Most of these, or a lot of these, are run by a specific company, the ICANN Internet Consortium of something. And I'm actually reading a book right now about how the inventor of the web, Tim Berners-Lee, well, he's considered the inventor of the web. There are a bunch of people that actually created the internet and the web and a lot of technologies. He's forefront for it. He very much didn't like that the IP addresses and the DNS was set up the way it was, because he felt like it gave one country, the US, too much control, and one organization, which is not even a nonprofit, too much control. They haven't really abused that so far, but the potential's always there. So some people are nervous about it. Anyway, all of these companies that handle domain names, they have to register with whoever that top level domain is. And some of these are actually countries. For example, AI is actually a country. I don't remember which country it is, but they're actually making a lot of money right now because they own the server that if you hit .ai in your web browser knows to go to that country's servers and ask them for that domain. So they're the ones you have to pay if you want a .ai domain. Usually you don't have to worry about this, but just kind of some interesting trivia. So your domain registrar, Network Solutions, GoDaddy, I like Cloudflare personally. They will actually connect to these people. Oh, here we go. We've got a meeting. Hello. Hello, Fi. How's it going? We are live. All right. Let me see here. Oh, goodness, I've lost my camera too. Let's get this into... There we go. There we go. Perfect. There we are.
Okay. I'm so sorry for being late.
I was regaling our viewers with talking about DNS.
Okay.
Our non-viewers.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Can you see the viewers? Because I can't.
Well, I've opened it up on my phone, and on my phone I see that we are live to one person. I don't see any chats yet. I don't want this.
Okay. But well, hold on. Sorry, everyone. We're setting up the technical stuff right now, so just give us a minute. Okay, because did I start the live or did you?
I did, but I did it under your name.
Okay, but so you should see the details of who is in there.
Yeah.
On the actual browser part, do you see that or you don't?
Oh, on the actual browser part. I'm not looking at the actual browser part. It just says it's now live, link to stream.
And does it say like viewers and you can click on it and stuff or no?
No, it's just a pop-up. I wonder if I open that stream, is that going to make the world go bad? Oh, I see us. There we are. Oh, there's the live chat, actually. That's even better, so I can close it on my phone. Cool.
And you can see viewers and all that or no?
I can see one viewer, and that I assume that's me. It doesn't show
when
me.
you, but when you click it, yeah, when you click it, it should. Okay, well, we can do that next time, I guess. We should just get started.
Yeah.
Sorry for being late. So today we are kind of going to go through a few different, things that we've helped people with. But we're also going to look at an AI piece that came out recently, which I just saw, and I think Rob has already seen, which is the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. So, am I able to screen share?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, great. And you're watching chat, right?
I am.
Cool. So let me go there. So yeah, Meta has these glasses that are with Ray-Ban, and it looks like it's a collaboration. And I just thought it'd be cool to talk about it. And since we're trying to understand what responsible tech even is this centered correctly for the stream?
The stream is right now in 16 by 9.
Okay. So is it showing up correctly or not?
It is. Well, I just moved it there, but it's kind of small.
Oh, it's too small for people to see.
Yeah. If you zoom in a little bit.
Okay. Let me go. Yeah, so we'll just kind of maybe if I make it zoom in a little bit more. How much do you need me to zoom in?
That looks pretty good. Yeah, you can see the header decently.
Yeah, so it was really interesting because I saw an ad for these, and they are sunglasses. And also, I think glasses, I remember reading that it's prescription enabled. So you can wear them. So they're kind of like those Google glasses. I don't know if you remember those, but it's kind of like that. And it just looks really different. So I thought we could just click through and kind of look at some of these.
They definitely look
Yeah,
better in Google glasses.
yeah, they I think because they partnered with Ray-Ban.
Hmm.
And so so basically let's explore the tech because I think it'll be interesting to just
And the neural
is
band,
this
it's weird they call
or
it a neural band
yeah,
when it goes on your wrist.
right. So EMG technology interprets your muscle signals with subtle gestures and haptic feedback. You can read messages, answer calls, silently engage Meta AI, and more without touching your glasses or your phone. Made from high performance textiles, the band is stylish, lightweight, and adjustable. So this is like another. It looks like bullets here. Anyway,
Hmm.
so this is another like. Oh wait, this one. So this I think like works with it, and I find it interesting because I do have like an aura ring, and I really like love my aura ring. And it is like AI, right? Like it is using different types of AI to or whatever. Rob knows more about this than I do, but it is using that type of technology, and it does give me insights that I find very helpful about like my sleep, for example, or stress levels, or when I'm about to fall sick. Like I actually can find out. It actually even can tell when my period's going to happen. So in terms of wearables, like it's like this like really interesting sort of line between like what is ethical and like what is practical and what is helpful. And I just watched a TED talk about this company that is encouraging users to like share data openly with like different biotech companies in order to support with like disease recognition in globally for humanity, and saying that data is actually like one of the most important things to helping us advance as a society, and like sharing that data in a way that is helpful. And I kind of want to talk about that because it's like if we're sharing our data, why are we not getting like reimbursed for it? Like, is there a way like I'll share my data and like you like pay me an affiliate freaking thing monthly for my data, right? And like or let me choose what I'm sharing with you, or let me even have like a vote in like kind of the projects that it's like going into. For example, if I want to prioritize people who don't have sight, and the data I share about like even what I'm looking at can like help somebody with like vision impairment or like eventually stop degenerative eye diseases, okay, I would go for that over, for example, like, aging, my skin aging, right? Like like there are certain things that I would prioritize, and I almost wonder if we can like democratize it in a certain way to make it more ethical, because I think that these things are probably going to just keep happening. Like, I don't know if we can really slow this whole engine down. So I wanted to just bring this up here. And Rob obviously, is more of an expert on all of this. But in case you haven't heard about this, we just wanted to talk about it a little bit here. And Rob, I'll stop my screen share. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too.
Well, I think it's definitely interesting. They've definitely done a better job of it. I remember the original Google Glass. People really didn't like it because it looked really dorky. It wasn't even. It was actually a really smart concept. Like it clipped onto an existing pair of glasses, so it was very convenient, very portable. But people could tell what it was, and I think also at that point, that was before smart rings. Really, that was smart watches were barely a thing at that point, and so people weren't used to wearables. And I remember reading reports of people actually getting assaulted for wearing this stuff because, oh my gosh, you're recording me. Well, that's kind of the thing that's a little interesting is as a society we're learning again, you don't have an expectation of privacy in public. Now, there are some countries, Germany for instance, where if you are recording and you plan to do something with that video, you have to blur people's faces. That's just a law. They say, yeah, we have some expectation of privacy in public. But some guy went into a Starbucks cafe with a Google Glass, and someone else got pissed off and was like, "You're recording me." I mean, oh, something happened to the Substack. Did we drop? Oh, it dropped a couple frames. Okay, it's back though. Um, yeah, but and it seems like that's now that we're like, oh, we got rings, we've got this. Not only are they built it into the glasses, and the glasses look good. I think people are less pissy about that sort of thing. It's they're less, or they maybe, I think maybe enough of our proprieties as a society have been eroded away or changed that now people are like, oh yeah, of course someone's going to be recording me with glasses. It might also have been that since then it's become a lot more popular for people to just record with their phones. And like, okay, the reason, like the Google Glass guy, I think someone recorded that on their phone. So now people are realizing, okay, yeah, it's just you're going to be recorded. Don't do stupid stuff unless, you're certain people and then they do stupid stuff. But it does seem like now is a better time. I kind of wish the Google one had taken off. I trust Google more than Meta with my data. And it's kind of an interesting thing right there too, like trusting people with data, right? Oh no, this person video recorded me in a crowded street without my permission. Why is that a problem? Why do we consider that to be a problem? Well, because we do have that kind of idea of like where I am, it's like a sanctity thing, right? You don't want everyone on the internet knowing where you are unless you've given permission for that. And then you also don't want them knowing information about you. Like, oh no, if I use my credit card in this place, they'll know. Who's gonna know? Data brokers, right? But what does that mean? Why do we care if data brokers have our information? Because there is that kind of old adage, oh, you have nothing to hide. Why are you so concerned if you have nothing to hide? And I do believe that to a degree. Like, if you're so paranoid that you're saying like, oh, I don't like that this camera caught me on this street. Well, what are you doing? Like, yeah, I kind of agree that that's like a possibly a problem, but you know, and then you have people like that CEO and head of HR that were at the freaking baseball game, and like maybe that's what people are worried about. Is everyone in the world just having an affair with their HR department? Popular media has led us to believe that yes, this might actually be true. Maybe that's it. Maybe everyone thinks, and I think it's like everyone thinks that they're really important, maybe, and that like someone
Yeah.
cares.
And it's also interesting there, and I want to kind of go back to what you said about Google Glass, because when Meta came out with Metaverse, it was such bad, like, I really think it was really bad timing. And I also think it was like trying to push something that people don't really want. People want to be in, as much as, we love video games and stuff, like reality and like this world that we live in is more interesting than a video game ultimately. Like, we know when something is not real, or we think we do. This is an existential question, and if you like those, I also have a podcast about that. Anyway, but shameless plug. So what I find interesting about these sunglasses and glasses is my first reaction was like, I would try that. And I found that interesting because I think that it is a timing sort of element to it. And I do think we are more primed, kind of like you're saying. We've already understood how much data we've given up. We already understand that privacy is one of those questionable things, and that we used to have a right to privacy, and now it's almost like it's flipped, where it's like we actually don't have a right to privacy, and it has to kind of be stated that things are private, and it's assumed that many things are public, and you can't really think that you are out of the watchful eye of tech, right? Now, that's not because of some government thing. There was no government. The government didn't put out an Aura ring, right? The government didn't give everybody iPhones and smartphones. It was private, like, business. And I find it really interesting too about the timing of this, and like when we're looking at like our personal liberties and what's really at stake here. And I don't know what's going to happen, and we're not here to like judge anything exactly, but just to like be a place where we can have these conversations and like really just think through things. Or if you find something that you think is like confusing and you're like, well, what does this mean, like what am I giving up? I don't understand this disclaimer. Like, I don't understand what they're asking of me. You can come to us and like we can talk about these things and explore them and discover them as they're happening, and just be like a place for you to talk about like, yeah, what's going on in the world of AI. So that was kind of what I want to talk about there. Rob, do you have anything else you want to add on this?
I mean, there's a lot of things that, a lot of branching topics off of that, but yeah, it does seem like it was just a perspective shift. And I think like it it's kind of that there's that expectation versus what is actually legal, right? People got really pissed off at Google like 2 decades ago for when they were driving around doing their Google Street View, they mapped everyone's Wi-Fi names and started using that to help geolocate on your phone. And it actually worked really well because we didn't have very good GPS at that point, but it could say, we know you're here and your signal strength to these Wi-Fi's, and it could really triangulate you quite well. People lost their minds because they're saying, oh my God, that's personal information. Thing is, it's really not. You're broadcasting that on unencrypted channels to the world, right? It's like if you put a political poster outside your house and then got mad because someone read it. And I think part of it too is we are more technically literate at this point. Like people understand that your Wi-Fi name is not like there are ways to make it hidden, but most people don't because they don't really care. And they've realized that okay, just because someone knows your Wi-Fi name doesn't actually mean anything. They can't really do anything with that information. It's not that scary. People used to be
Yeah,
worried
and I
that
think that's
websites
the
knew their
tech.
IP addresses.
Yeah, that's the tech literacy piece, right? It's like, do we don't even know what we are consenting to? We don't really even know what we're kind of giving up, right? And kind of
Right.
having that awareness more is what's going to be really helpful and really important to kind of make these like informed decisions about the future of technology, because tech's not going anywhere, and like we just have to like figure out how we want to, what kind of world we want to create, like in tandem with technology, because like I'm not giving up my smartphone. Like I refuse. So okay, cool. Do we want to switch into a little bit about like just happy tech related things, or do you
Sure.
want to add more about the AI stuff?
We got plenty of material for AI for hours. Let's talk about Happy Tech.
Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, this is open. We're going to do this every Wednesday at 6 p.m. So you can come here live, and we'll help you for free, actually. But you will be live. So, speaking of privacy, people will be watching this who you may never know are going to watch it. But we can help you with like any issues that you have. You can come onto the video also. You can post in chat if you have any questions about basically, your, let's say your website is broken, a plugin isn't working, there's some weird code issue that's going on, your email setup is weird, your Wi-Fi is being weird, just different tech related things we can help with. And then if we can't help with it, we'll let you know. And then you can go to the appropriate place. For example, if you have to actually take in your laptop, then you'd have to go into the Apple Store. Or if it's something very specific, like we're working on, like Google, like a deeper Google issue, Google Workspace issue, then we would refer you to Google, or even help you with the customer service aspect with Google and just provide support there. So we're basically like tech coaches, and we're here to just help people understand technology and feel better about technology. And we do that in a couple of different ways. So we thought we could kind of go into that. Rob, do you want to share about like any aspect like from like the early days of like helping people with tech that people might find interesting or that you feel is still topical now?
I think it really, we're getting to the point now where basic literacy in a couple of key concepts is really important. And I'm not talking about like what I was talking about earlier. Like you don't need to know necessarily what a DNS is, um, what a domain registrar versus a hosting service, and why you would pick one over the other. You don't need to know the inner workings of an SPF record. But what you probably do want to get wrap your head around at this point is what is a domain? Who do I pay to run my website? Where is my email through? Um, if you use Google Workspace, like what is Google Docs? What is Google Calendar? Little things like that can be really useful. And I don't think we're running into a lot of people at this point who don't know those things, but definitely I remember early on there were definitely people who just we'd say, okay, well who do you have your website hosted through? No idea. And we have ways of looking that up. It is actually surprisingly easy to find out that information, but it's still like, even though we can find it, it is information that is really useful for someone to have because you can solve a lot of your own problems just by knowing a lot of that basic stuff.
Yeah, that sounds totally true and makes a lot of sense. And I think another thing that came up with another client this week that I'm going to kind of explore more is Apple passwords. So if you actually know anything about that, please, let me know because I do have an iPhone but I use like a PC basically for both my PCs are PCs. So I don't really know too much about like the Apple ecosystem. So I'm still learning that. And one of the things that came up was like the passwords app on the iPhone, and like it's like across different devices and platforms too. And like talking about, I'm bringing that up because password security is like one of the like really important pieces that I notice a lot is that people are writing down passwords or they don't have like a very secure way, or even worse, they're trying to remember passwords, which is really hard to do at this point because you probably have logins to like, I would say the average, actually, let's look this up. Average number of passwords login. Because I think most people are logging into at least 10 places. Yeah. The average American has approximately 168 passwords for personal accounts and an additional 87 passwords for business accounts, totaling around 255 passwords per person. This is on Google Gemini. It's where I got it. And they have the link in here. It's through Huntress and security.org and Nord, which is a VPN. So I don't actually know what Huntress is. Anyway, so I think password management, it's so sexy, guys. Don't we love it? Don't we just think it's just the coolest thing to talk about? But it can make your life so much easier. To have it, it's made my life a lot easier. They even can generate passwords for you that are really secure. You can share passwords between people. When you're inside the vault, you can like put a note in there and like just remember important things. Like I have the social security numbers in there for myself. You can put your credit cards in there and have that also. And it's really helpful when you have the actual for your phone because it usually will put the password in when you're opening other apps. So you're not just locked into browser like password stuff. So that's something that I've noticed that I think is really important. And if you're not using a password manager, if you're using the Google Chrome like password manager, that's fine for just like the browser. But I don't think that like when I try to log in on apps on my Samsung, it doesn't bring up the Google passwords that I've saved in Chrome, but my LastPass passwords will pop up. And then Samsung also has its own sort of password thing. I don't really use it, but your phone may also have that. But you want to make sure that it's across devices that you can use it. Rob, did you want to add anything else? Because you're way more in on the password game than I am.
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing now actually is places are starting to try to move away from passwords because of the things that you mentioned. They're inherently, people write them down, they use duplicates, they're very easy to lose. And so like a lot of services that I've logged into recently, they just say, "Oh, what's your email?" Okay, we emailed you a code. Why? Because if someone's got access to your email, you're kind of hosed anyway. Because they can get through your forgot password flow for any of these things. And that's why a lot of services also do two-factor authentication. Most of you have probably run into this where they say, "Hey, set up an authenticator. We're going to send you a text message." Text message or SMS based two-factor is also very insecure. The reason is there's no encryption on text messages at all. It's not even built into the system to encrypt text messages because when they were building text messages, the cell phone providers didn't even think that was a thing that would even happen. Now we have stingrays and fake towers, and it's very easy. It's not as easy as some things, but someone who's determined and wants to spend 20,000 can probably get your text messages out of thin air. So those codes are not secure. That's why, like Google Authenticator, Apple Authenticator, there's a bunch of different ones. I have like five on my phone right now. Those
So
are
do you
actually,
recommend password managers or not? Because it sounds like from
oh
what
yeah,
you're saying that you
I recommend them for sites that require it. But I also recommend setting up two factor. I know it's a pain in the ass to keep track of all of those codes and all the recovery keys and stuff like that. But it really does mean, like, let's say I get a hold of your password somehow, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. I can't get through your two factor unless I have your phone. And that's much harder to do. Still possible, but much harder. And some of the people I say, oh, well, you know, what if someone gets a giant wrench, just beats my password out of me? You've got bigger problems at that point. Like that, no amount of security that we have on the internet is designed for that particular situation. Another thing I've seen people get concerned about is password managers a lot of times stay logged in. So they're like, oh, if someone uses my computer, then they're gonna have access to my passwords. And that is true. So you can make it so that your password manager logs out automatically, but also it's less and less likely that people are using your computer, or if they are, you can give them guest accounts. So there really are tools in the tool belt for all these security things. It's just a lot of people don't make use of them, and that's when you get hacked. If you're following the basics of get your passwords, get a secure password manager, generate your passwords randomly, which the password manager does for you, use your two factor, which some password managers will also do for you, or use a passcode, which most modern computers can do as well, and your phone can also do. You really don't have that much to worry about as far as people stealing your password, unless you give it to them. That's a whole other thing that can happen.
Yeah, and like I've tried a few times to set up my passkey, but it hasn't worked for me. So at some point I should just like sit down and do that. But if you also have things like that for your the tech that you're using where you're like, oh, I really should set that up and I haven't done it yet, you can come to us and we can do it together.
Yep. Yeah, well, even if we haven't seen it before, we've seen enough that we can usually figure out from reading the very quick tutorials what you need to do. But yeah, password managers are great. I'm a big fan of them. I've used one for probably not 10 years, but maybe like at least 7 years. Um, I can go on about this topic, but I imagine we have other things.
No, I didn't have anything else. I mean, yeah, password stuff was on my mind, I think, as one of the major, yeah, like the major things that I've just noticed over the last 4 years of doing this.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I think I've noticed is like shame and a lot of reluctance to actually ask for the help that's needed.
Yep.
And I find that sad, and I wish that people like kind of felt more comfortable to ask for help with tech. But I think that they've just probably asked so many people in their lives for help with tech, and they feel like a burden essentially.
Yeah, tech is hard. It's not getting easier. That's part of it. It keeps moving and it keeps moving very quickly. And what you learned 5 years ago, half of that's out of date, and 5 years ago you didn't know which half it was going to be. And even today, the things and the processes that we're using in a couple years, we're gonna have to revisit those and just make sure that we understand the latest because everything changes, and a lot of times it changes for the better. Actually, I would say all the time it changes for the better. It's just not always your better. Sometimes it's better for someone else, but a lot of times it is changing for the better. It's just complicated, and that can be problematic because once you get your stuff set up, you get your website, you want to start doing website things and leave it alone and then actually run your business, you don't want to have to come back to it in a couple years. but it's important that you do because technologies change, they advance. We gain new abilities too. So things that weren't possible a couple years ago, we can now do much more easily. And it's always good to just want to do a little checkup, even if it's just some fresh paint, or if it's a complete, hey, I need to move off of this onto some new platform. Like Wix and Squarespace, those weren't around 5 years ago. Now they're there. Now that makes putting up a website so much easier. Might not even be that hard
Wait,
if you.
Wix was there 5 years ago.
Oh, was it?
Wix has been there for like a freaking long time.
I didn't know about it 5 years ago. Uh, but yeah, things change. 5 years from now, we'll have something totally different.
2006.
Oh God,
And let me
that's
see when
that's a
Squarespace was
long. That's
founded.
a lot longer. Okay,
Yeah, Wix has
Wix
been
was
around for
not
almost 20
popular on the
years.
scene
Oh my
in
God,
recent.
Squarespace was 2003. It's been around 22 years.
I was a child back then. That's kind of
Yeah,
interesting. That's kind of interesting because really
yeah.
we didn't see a lot of those builders back then. So I'm
Well, I've been
surprised.
using Wix at least for like for different websites for like at least 15, 20, 12 to 15 years, I think.
Okay.
Or yeah, but like I think you weren't really in there because you like more code things. And
Yeah.
so you didn't really look at like the ready-made solutions. But yeah, Squarespace, Wix,
Okay.
and there's also another one.
Well,
When
what
was
I will
Shopify?
say then, Wix and Squarespace did not look like what they do
Yeah.
now, 15
Oh
years
no, they
ago.
didn't.
So if you
Okay,
built a
Shopify
website
was
in Wix,
2006.
yeah, if you
Yeah.
built a website in Shopify, Wix, Squarespace 15 years ago, it's probably in need of a refresh at this point.
Yeah. Okay, and WordPress. Oh my God,
WordPress is
WordPress was
ancient.
only founded 2003.
Yeah,
So
I've
it
heard
was
it.
founded at the same time as Squarespace.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that was kind of a golden age, honestly.
Yeah.
It was,
Interesting.
I mean, it was before the housing crisis,
Yeah.
and these are the techs that they did
Yeah,
pretty
but like
well.
for some reason I thought that WordPress was like older.
Yeah, I get I have a feeling because that was I think like if you went back 5 years from that, like 1998, there weren't even a lot of web hosts capable of running something like WordPress. And that got as computing powers built up. I mean, WordPress is also a lot leaner back then than it is now, but a lot of the technological things had to come into being as well. And that's also why it used to be remarkably difficult to put a video in a website. Now it's extremely easy. The technology has just moved forward. There's a standard for it. It's just like one line of HTML code and bam, there's a video. It used to be horrendous. And also, especially back in 2003, 2004, it depended on what web browser you were using. And that has changed. So yeah, things move on, and we get new technologies. We get better technologies. A lot of a lot of websites back at that point were what we call server side rendered. So there was your website ran on someone else's server, your web host, Wix, Shopify, whatever, and they kind of just decided how to display to the user, and then the user would take some action that would go back to the server, and it would make that decision again. Nowadays, it's all client focused, so you still have that back part, but a lot of that stuff is more responsive. The user clicks a button, and what they want happens immediately. Thing is, when those kind of technologies became popular, we had to re-architect everything to work with them because these things didn't just magically work. Whole websites had to be rebuilt. I was part of that for a couple of companies, and it's not the end of the world now. Pretty easy to process, and a lot of companies like Wix or Squarespace, they will actually build that in at this point. But it is something that at some point we'll have another revolution. Like after that, we had the mobile revolution, and then all the websites needed to be mobile friendly, right? And then you probably remember opening a website on your phone, and it was this massive thing that was so tiny, all little text, and you had to zoom in on it. That's not as much of a problem anymore either because everyone knows what to do. But the next new thing is probably right around the corner. Could be VR. I mean, it's AI right now. Like everyone has to have an AI chatbot on their website. But whatever comes next, it's going to require rebuilding things, and it's kind of unfortunate because it'd be nice if we could just put a site and have it exist for 35 years and never have to look at it again. But that's just not where things are because everyone else moves forward, and that means you have to also.
Yeah, I think that's so true. What browser do you recommend, by the way?
That's a good question. I mean, I tend to use Chrome. That's just because I've used that for a long time, 15 years. And it's decent. Like if you use Microsoft Edge, that's built on Chrome at this point. If you use Brave, that's built on Chrome at this point. So it's kind of just it's a solid browser. It does everything you need to. Everyone knows how to build sites for it. Safari's not terrible. If you're on a Mac and you don't really want to deal with it, Safari's not bad. It does have some weird quirks sometimes, but for the by and large, we know how to deal with those when we're building websites, and so we don't really worry about it too much. But so really, it's like whatever works for you is what I would say. It used to be way back in the day that there was a huge difference between all the web browsers, but that's not really the case anymore. At this point, they're all pretty much the same. And it made it very helpful for building websites. It used to be you have to build a website three different ways for each browser and then kind of do some clever tricks to figure out which one you're dealing with. Nowadays, we just build it once, and that makes development a lot faster, but it does mean also that a website that looks one way on one browser is really going to look the same on just about any browser. So, yeah, I use Chrome, but if you use something else and it works for you, then by all means, keep it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of went all over the place today, but I think that's good. And yeah, we can kind of talk a little bit about how we work, just to see if it's interesting to anybody. So, one of the things that we offer is what's called an assessment and action plan. And we've had quite a few clients actually who have VAs, and they have to set up their VAs on their technology that they're using, whether it's, just like basic things like Canva, for example, or more complex things like if they have a full funnel builder and they're using that funnel builder and they need to get all the settings done for their VA, or if they are trying to give access to the VA for like, O365 or for like Google Workspace, then they need like, deeper support with that. So if you have a VA and like you are trying to get the tech working and you're having some issues, let's say the VA is in another country and it's like affecting like how you log in and stuff and like two-factor, stuff like that, let us know because that's definitely something we can help with. And you can let us know if you have any questions also, because we're happy to just talk about this. Like, honestly, that we do, we really genuinely enjoy talking about this stuff. So, yeah, that's something that the assessment and action plan can be used for, is to get that set up done. Rob, do you have any other like times we've used it that you found? Oh, it's like, oh, and yeah, that you found that were interesting that you want to kind of share about.
Yeah, I think one of the other things we it's really useful for is people who just feel like they have too much going on. Um, and a lot of times people are unaware of all the features. For example, Zoom came out with Zoom Clips. So people who use Loom a lot and they're saying, "Yeah, I'm not super fond of Loom, but it works." We tell them, "Oh, we have Zoom, so you could use Zoom Clips instead, and maybe that save you some money." Little things like that, because these companies are all jockeying against each other, so they're all constantly adding new features and stuff, and that's stuff that we like to stay on top of. And so people who come to us and they'll have 20, 30 different services they pay for, we can sometimes save them some money because we tell them, hey, maybe you don't need this particular service if you're only using it for this one feature. We like to go on the err on the side of whatever works for you. So if someone's saying, "Yeah, I know that I have these three services and they all do kind of the same thing, but I use them all for different things and I like that," okay, we're gonna leave you to that. But if you're saying, "Yeah, I really want to consolidate and really want to save money, or I just want to make my life less complicated," we can really help with that too, because there's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of it is really complicated. And sometimes we can recommend, like, "Hey, if you're using this service but it is very complicated, here's one that does something similar that might be a little easier."
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that we're trying to do that's different, I think, from other places that I've seen is that it's like basically going to be me and or Rob or one of the contractors that we work with who's going to help you. Like it's not you're not going to like be dealing with like just some random bot, you know. And it'll be us. Like it'll be a real human because we're trying to keep like the human part of technology going and be helpful to you because sometimes it is honestly this is what I've noticed too, it's a mindset thing, it really is with tech. Some people, what kind of happens is like they blame themselves because they don't understand the technology or they didn't know that that was possible. And so then it becomes like a shame circle and they're like embarrassed to ask for help and they think that they should be able to do it alone and that everybody else has this all figured out. But the reality is we meet so many people who are so frustrated, are so tired of settings. They're so tired of like nitty gritty little things that could be wrong. And like they're so tired of doing something wrong. And you sometimes need a human to be there to just tell you it's okay. And it's going to be okay. And just help you work through the issues that are coming up. And it can be really simple things and it can be really complicated things like entire automation sequences for your emails, right? Or adding upsells or things like that. Like it can be like more complex. So I really think like having like a good mindset around it and learning not to blame yourself and then coming and asking for help. The other thing that I've noticed that's been helpful for me, and Rob has kind of taught me this, and actually, Rob, it'd be cool if you kind of share how you create your own workflows because I showed him how to do something in Canva. And yeah, actually, can you just share about that? Because I think that that's really that's something people should do more of.
Yeah. Oh, we're dropping frames. Let's see. Okay, we're back. Um, yeah, so a lot of what I do is I find myself in a lot of situations where it's a new situation. I don't fully understand all the systems that I'm working with, like Canva. I come into Canva, I've worked with Photoshop, I've worked with Figma, I've worked with various movie and image editors, so I know the basic concepts of Canva, but not on a deep level and not what is there. So when someone teaches me something new, like Fi took the time the other day to show me exactly how she generates the images for our ad graphics. And I had generated a couple using the Figma, not the Figma, the Canva AI. I said, "Oh, here's the prompt of what I want." And it came out. I said, "Yeah, that looks good." I put it in. She reminded me, "No, that doesn't match our branding," which it didn't. We have a very specific branding for HappyTec. And then she said, "Okay, here's how I do that. I go into the thing, I pick this style, I make sure that these words are in the prompt because prompt engineering, that's important." So I wrote that down. I said, "Okay, here's what you do." And there's a couple ways. Sometimes if I'm really not familiar with the concepts of the technology, I do it in steps. Step one, okay, we click this button. Step two, we click that button. Step three, we type this particular thing in and what that means. Step four, we went to this stage. For Canva, because I'm more familiar with how it works and I do also know how to do the AI generation, I just wrote down when generating ad images, make sure it's this style, add this. It's just more notes, right? And it's kind of in a linear fashion. Like the notes are written as I am going to need to know them, but at the same time, I don't need to go super detailed. So it's really, you got to be honest with yourself about how familiar you feel with what you're working with. Is it a technology or a service that you do really know and just someone is giving you a little bit of a tip? Maybe just write down, "Oh yeah, in Gmail you can go to the settings and under filters there's this particular thing." If you don't know how to do that, then maybe you want to be explicit and even have some screenshots. Okay, click on the gear icon here. Then click all settings, which should be at the bottom of that list. Then there's a tab bar at the top and you click on filters. So it really, be detailed if you feel like you need the detail, and don't feel bad about that. Every single service out there has a trillion settings. And the reason they have that is because they want to give you as much power as possible. I know it doesn't feel that way, but they want to give you a lot of power and flexibility. The problem is when you add a lot of power and flexibility into a system, it becomes really difficult to describe to people how to make use of that power and flexibility. And we're not yet at the point where we can use natural language because the AI just isn't quite there yet. And some places are trying it where they're saying, here's an AI, tell it what you need and it'll do it. But most companies haven't turned their settings over to that. And Zoom is a particularly egregious offender here. If you've ever gone to the Zoom settings for your profile, it's very confusing to know what they do because three of them will be grouped together and they'll all seem like they're related. But one of them you can only check when the other one's checked. But when you check that one, it seems like it wouldn't do the thing that the other one does. And so it's really complicated. And that's just one thing. That's just Zoom, right? Gmail and Google Drive, they have 1,000 settings apiece. And so you really, if you don't know these things, that's nothing to be ashamed of because you're not in the business of learning Gmail settings. We are in the business of learning Gmail settings, so we will teach that to you. But when you get a little tip or you read something in a blog that works for you, write it down. There's no shame in writing it down. Even if you write it down on a sticky note, put it on your computer. It's there, right? You remember, oh yeah, Gmail, I gotta do that thing. It does become difficult eventually to categorize these things, but that's a whole other problem, categorizing information. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I've noticed for me, if I just write it down too, it helps with recall later on. And I was getting kind of tutoring and classes with Adobe Suite, specifically when I was using Premiere more for editing videos. And I found like a tutor, like an Adobe Suite tutor. And I would go to class with her, and it was one on one. And I was stuck on a very specific like issue. I had like basically everything else figured out, and it was one thing that wasn't working, right? So I would go to her and she'd be like, oh, it's just this, click that. And I'd click it and oh my God, it was done. It was done. It was taken care of and I was unblocked and I moved forward. And she gave me the video recording. So when I ran into that same situation before and I couldn't remember the steps, I could just go to the recording, and I have gone to the recordings and I've rewatched the recordings and I've recreated it and solved it for myself. And that's something that we can also offer is like, once we show you how to do something, you can have that recording so you can always access it and solve your problem and move forward, because everybody's memories these days have changed. They've actually done studies on it, like the way that literally the way that we remember. Let me actually look that up because it was really interesting. And so I just want to point out that, like, in this digital age, it's really important to understand that your ability to remember things is going to be different. Hold on. How has tech affected?
Yeah, it really has. It really has changed the way that people remember. There's been studies on it, like on a biological level, on a psychological level. Tech and
Yeah.
internet has
So,
changed everything.
yeah, there's digital amnesia. Studies have confirmed that Google effect, where individuals are less likely to remember information they know that they can easily find online. The brain is essentially de-incentivized to commit facts to memory, instead remembering where and how to access the information rather than the information itself, which is a form of transactive memory. Cognitive offloading and reduced mental effort, multitasking, and information overload, which is a huge problem these days. I mean, I know by going live, we are a part of that, but if you also need help with understanding how to decide what to listen to, let us know, because that's also something I practice a lot is digital hygiene and kind of setting up my social media channels in a way that works for my productivity instead of against my productivity. So I actually use social media for accountability. And if you're interested in that, let me know. We can talk about that more because it doesn't have to be the evil thing that we have made it out to be. It can turn into a different thing, and you are actually more in control of what your feed looks like, how you engage with it. You still have power over that, even though they have control over all of your data and your awareness once you give it to them, right? But you still control what you're seeing on there, and there's a way to kind of set it up to work for you anyway. And also sleep disruption, and this is something that I ran into when I shifted my sleep schedule. I was turning off like digital devices a couple of hours before bed, and on my Aura ring the next morning, I had like greens across the board because I was putting away my device, right? And I literally work with technology like all the time. Like, and so it's really important to have like a good understanding of how this is affecting your health and your memory. And that's why it's okay to write things down. And if you need to, literally, this is, I know we're doing IT, but this is my to-do list. It's this, like, you know what I mean? Because I have to, and it sits right here and I just always have it. Because, and Rob and I were just talking about this earlier this week, writing actually helps you remember things, like literally actually writing it on paper. So just keep a few of the things in mind. Remember that the way your brain works has been altered because of technology, and understand that if you need more help than you used to need, there's a reason for that. And then there are also different exercises you can do. We can go into that too at another point to kind of keep yourself sharp. And this also goes into AI, which is like a whole conversation about how we are really shifting how our brains are developing, and also how neural networks are neural pathways are are working in our brains. So that's also something we can go into at some point, is about like tech and like the effects on the brain and health, and how to make sure that you're working with technology in a way, or integrating technology in a way into your life that is like holistic, and it's not running the entire thing, and you're still remembering to go outside and not be on your phone. Okay, that's all for me. Rob, did you want to add anything there?
I mean, there's a whole bunch of topics that we should cover there at some point, but we are out of time. Um, and so yeah, want to thank you all for watching, and we'll hopefully be here next week.
Do you know how to end the stream?
I mean, I just click a button.
Oh, perfect.
All right, bye, folks.